So let me ask you again. Do you want to be in the NBA?
Yes!
Never back down.
The story begins with Stanley, a seasoned scout for the Philadelphia 76ers, one of the teams in the NBA. His job is to travel across the globe and find promising players for the Sixers. In fact, fans usually just call them the Sixers. Stanley has been with the organization for nearly 30 years, but because of his constant travel, he rarely gets to spend time with his wife and daughter, which puts a strain on their relationship. Still, Stanley is completely devoted and honest in his work, and the Sixers really need him. After a disappointing season, the team is desperate for fresh, new talent. So whenever Stanley hears about a potential player, he goes to see them in action. He checks out several prospects. One has incredible skills, but struggles with drug addiction, so Stanley passes on him. Another has the perfect height and looks promising, until Stanley discovers the guy lied about his age. He claimed to be 22, but he's actually much older. Then Stanley finds yet another prospect, but during a game, the player twists his ankle, and the X-rays reveal he may never play at a high level again. Frustrated and disappointed, Stanley heads back to the U.S. Soon after, there's a team meeting with the Sixers owner and his son, Vince. During the discussion, Stanley disagrees with Vince, which clearly irritates him. Stanley notices this and decides to stay silent. The team's owner, however, has great respect for Stanley. He's seen Stanley's dedication for decades, and he knows Stanley always speaks the truth. Later, he pulls Stanley aside and tells him, "You shouldn't have stayed silent. With your 30 years of experience, you have every right to stand your ground." Then he takes Stanley to the basketball court and gives him life-changing news. Stanley is officially promoted to assistant coach of the Sixers. For Stanley, this is a dream come true. All his life, he's wanted to coach a professional basketball team. He even gets his own office. The owner encourages him, "Never bow down to lies. If you know you're right, fight for it." Overjoyed, Stanley goes home and shares the news with his wife and daughter. They're thrilled, especially since this means he won't be traveling constantly anymore. That night, while out with his wife, Stanley hears devastating news on the radio. The Sixers owner has suddenly passed away. At the memorial, surrounded by some of the biggest names in basketball, Stanley approaches the owner's daughter and offers her condolences. He hopes she'll be the one to take over the team, but she tells him that her brother, Vince, will now run the organization, while she'll remain the team's manager. This shocks Stanley. He never had a good relationship with Vince, and he knows working under him will be difficult. 3 months later, Vince officially calls Stanley into his office. He tells him, "I want you back as a scout." In other words, he's being demoted. Stanley refuses at first, but Vince makes it clear, this isn't a request, it's an order. "If you can find us one truly exceptional player, I'll give you your coaching position back." With no other choice, Stanley accepts. He's given a list of potential players to evaluate. His search takes him to Spain, but when he arrives, he learns that the player he was supposed to check out is injured and can't even participate. Disappointed once again, Stanley feels like his chances are slipping away. One night, Stanley stumbles across a street basketball game. The court is packed with players, but one of them instantly stands out. His name is Cruz. Bo plays with incredible skill, dominating the game, and Stanley is blown away by his performance. Later that night, as Bo heads home, Stanley follows him, trying to make contact. Bo, however, misreads the situation. He thinks Stanley is hitting on him and gets angry. But once Stanley explains who he is and why he's there, Bo calms down and invites him inside. At Bo's home, Stanley learns more about him. He's divorced, raising a young daughter, and living with his mom after his father abandoned the family. To make ends meet, Bo works construction and plays pickup games for money. Stanley tells him, "I want you to join the Sixers." But Bo shakes his head. He can't risk it. He has work the next morning and needs the steady paycheck. Stanley tries to convince him, explaining that if he gets selected, he'd earn at least $9,000 a month. That's life-changing money. Bo's mother steps in, urging him to take a sick day and give this opportunity a shot. Finally, Bo agrees. For the first time in his life, he boards a plane, business class no less. He's overwhelmed when the flight attendants bring him tray after tray of food. And like a wide-eyed kid, he tells Stanley, "They just gave me so much to eat." It's clear Bo comes from a humble background. When the plane lands, however, trouble strikes. At the airport, Bo is pulled aside for questioning. Stanley's lawyer manages to get him out quickly, But Stanley learns the truth. Bo has a criminal record. Years ago, he beat someone badly during a fight, and it's haunted him ever since. Stanley is furious that Bo kept this from him. Still, the next day, Stanley brings Bo to practice with professional players. Everyone is working on vertical jumps, and when it's Bo's turn, he soars higher than anyone without even wearing basketball shoes. The whole gym is stunned. Stanley knows he's found something special. But just then, Vince calls. He tells Stanley that Bo will not be joining the Sixers. Stanley demands a reason, but Vince gives none. It's personal. Vince doesn't want Stanley to succeed, and rejecting Bo is part of his plan to force Stanley out. Frustrated, Stanley goes home and explains everything to his wife. Together, they make a big decision. They'll support Bo themselves out of their own pocket. The next day, Stanley takes Bo to the NBA Combine, where players showcase their skills in hopes of being drafted. Vince is there too, parading his own new prospect, a flashy player named Kermit. Vince sneers at Stanley, saying, "My guy will crush yours in 2 minutes." The warm-ups begin, and Stanley warns Bo, "You have to bring your absolute best here." At first, Bo plays great, impressing the scout, but soon his emotions get the better of him. In the second game, his focus slips and his performance drops. Meanwhile, Kermit shines, showing off his talent and confidence. Afterward, Vince and Kermit mock Stanley to his face, laughing that Bo will never make it as a real player. Stanley's anger boils over. Right there, he quits. "I'm done. I'm leaving the Sixers." Vince and Kermit just laugh at him. Bo, crushed by his poor showing, is ready to give up too. But Stanley pulls him aside and tells him the truth. "Up until now, you've played basketball just to survive, for your family, for money. But that's not enough. Ask yourself, do you really love this game? If the answer is no, then go back to Spain right now. But if you do, you've got to want it with everything in you. You've got to be obsessed. That's the only way you'll ever become great." Stanley's words light a fire in Bo. Though Stanley has walked away from the Sixers and knows Vince will never accept Bo, he makes a decision. He's going to train Bo himself no matter what. He'll push him until no NBA team can ignore him. And so, Stanley begins coaching Bo personally. Day after day, Bo grins harder than ever before. Slowly but surely, his game transforms. His performance reaches an entirely new level. One day, Stanley discovers the harsh truth. Every NBA team has blacklisted Bo because of his criminal record. When Bo finds out, he's devastated. Stanley had known the Sixers wouldn't take him, but he never told Bo. And now Bo feels betrayed. Stanley tries to calm him down, promising, "I'll find a way. I won't give up on you." He sends Bo back to the hotel and heads home determined to pull every string he has. Stanley calls old friends and colleagues, trying desperately to get Bo a chance at an NBA tryout, but no one helps him. The next morning, while having breakfast with his family, Stanley's daughter comes up with an idea. "Why don't we record Bo's highlights and put them online? If the videos go viral, people will notice him." Stanley loves it. He sets up a challenge game with the help of a former NBA player, announcing, "Anyone who can beat Bo gets $1,000. One by one, street ball players step up to take him on, but no one can beat Bo." Every game is filmed and uploaded online, and soon his highlight reels go viral. The buzz grows so loud that the NBA is pressured into giving Bo another shot. Still, Bo is struggling emotionally. Stanley realizes he's homesick, missing his mom and daughter. So, Stanley arranges for them to come from Spain, lifting Bo's spirits before the big day. At the selection event, Bo finally gets his chance to prove himself. He plays brilliantly, so well that every scout is impressed. The next day is the final stage with everything on the line. Bo starts strong, but Vince's player, Kermit, tries to rattle him by talk-sliding his daughter and insulting his family. Bo loses control and shoves Kermit to the floor. Everyone is disappointed, and with Bo's criminal history, it looks like his dream is over. Stanley too feels crushed. He takes Bo to the airport, ready to send him back to Spain. Bo thanks him, saying he'll never forget what Stanley did and apologizes for letting him down. Both part ways, heartbroken. But just before Stanley leaves the airport, he gets a call from a Sixers colleague. He says, "I secretly managed to get Bo's name into a private showcase. Big-time scouts will be there. It's his last shot." Stanley rushes back, catches Bo, and drives like crazy to the event. With only an hour to spare, they arrive. Once again, Kermit is there, trying to throw Bo off his game. But this time, Bo stays calm. He shuts Kermit down on the court and delivers an incredible performance. The scouts are blown away. In the middle of it all, Vince's sister arrives with big news. she's taken over as chair of the Sixers. She explains, "Since Vince took charge, the team has been falling apart. I'm restoring things the way my father intended. Players will be chosen on merit, not politics." Then she turns to Stanley. "How would you like to return as assistant coach?" Stanley is overjoyed. Not only does he rejoin the Sixers, but he's also finally living his dream as a coach. 5 months later, the Sixers are set to play the Boston Celtics. On the court, Stanley takes his place as assistant coach, and across from him is Bo Cruz, now officially an NBA player for the Celtics. Stanley doesn't mind that Bo's on the opposing team. He smiles, wishes him good luck, and beams with pride. After all, his dream came true. Bo made it to the NBA, and Stanley finally became a coach. And with that, the story of the movie comes to an end.